This video is brought to you by Baber and Bioinformatics, providers of bioinformatics training, consultancy and software. In this video, I'm going to look at a feature in SeqMonk which you can use to record an analysis session that you've run within the program. This is a feature that we introduced with version 1.45 and is something that we're going to develop as we go on. And this video is going to go through the basics of how to use this. The feature is called a Vistory, and the idea is that you can record automatically the steps in the analysis that are performed by SeqMonk, and you can annotate this with either text or titles of your own choosing, or with graphics or tables exported out from the program. In this example, I've got a simple ChIP-seq experiment that I'm going to look at, and we're going to run an analysis and record it as we go through. Now, the Vistory isn't open by default, but you can access it through the button on the toolbar here. And if I press that, you'll see that I've already got some information recorded in here. Vistories are composed of sections of information, and those can either be events generated by SeqMonk, they can be pieces of text, either titles, subtitles or text, which you can add from the toolbar up here, or they can be images or tables inserted from SeqMonk. Each of the individual sections can be deleted. So on here, so I have some automatically generated sections which I'm going to remove by pressing the X, and in fact I'm going to clear my entire Vistory by pressing the clear, so I start with a fresh clean Vistory to work from. What I'm going to do to start with is just insert a summary of the current state of my project. So the summary button here will summarize all of the data I have loaded and the quantitation I currently have on my project. So I can see that in here. I'm now going to put the Vistory to one side and do some work within SeqMonk, and I'll keep coming back to it as I add other information. So to start with, I want to do some basic QC. So actually in my Vistory, I'm going to start by adding a title. And I'm going to say this is going to be the quality control section. Okay. And I will now go back here. So some things I might want to do for QC would just be, firstly, just have a look at the raw data and decide, yep, that looks quite nice. So I might want to save a snapshot of that so I can export my current view and put my chromosome view, and it will ask me whether this graphic is supposed to go to a file or into the Vistory. If I put that into the Vistory and then have a look, I will see that at the bottom now I have this graphic embedded into the Vistory, so I keep a record of that. I can make some comments about this, so if I want to say let's put some text in here, I can say this all looks nice with good peaks. Okay. Next I might want to do some quantitation, so let's go and do some analysis on this. So I will define some probes. This is a K4 chip data set, so I'm going to do feature probe generation, and I'm going to make probes over promoters. So let's say if I do genes and then upstream of the feature from 2000 to 500 within the feature, and I'm going to do a linear read count quantitation. Okay, so now I have some quantitation on here. If I step back to my Vistory, I can see that each of those operations inserted an event in here, so it generated a new probe set to say what that was. It also then put in the quantitation to show what I did with that. So these are automatically added. Next, I'm going to do some visualization of this. So let's go and do a scatter plot, for example, between the two. Okay, so now I can see what that looks like. That might be something else I wish to stick in the Vistory, so I can just save the image, put that in the Vistory. I might want to do some filtering off this, so let's do some basic filtering and just filter on a fold change for these two, or on a difference between the two samples. So if I look on here, a difference of more than kind of 500 might be interesting. So let's go and do filter, do differences on the individual probes, and say that there must be a difference of at least 500 between them. And redo my scatter plot and highlight my list of differences. Okay, so I can see all of this on here, and again I will save that back to the Vistory. So all I'm doing is just sending graphics and events across to the Vistory as I'm going through, and when I'm finished I will go back and clean that up and annotate it a little bit. Let me go and look at some of the more interesting differences. Let's find something nice. So here's an example of a very highly changing region. And I can put that into the Vistory as well. Okay. So I can keep stepping through and doing this, building up my analysis in the normal way. Now, as I've been doing this, my Vistory has also been expanding, so I can see all of the segments that I've put in here have been added into here. I've got a little bit behind with my annotations, so let's say I want to put something in here. So let's say I want to insert a new title here, and I'll call this analysis. I'm going to put a subtitle underneath and say Quantitation. Okay. Then down here, underneath this one, I will put a subtitle and call that Visualization. And then finally, underneath this, I will put a subtitle that says Differential Enrichment. Okay. And then for the final one, I will put a title in that's saying examples, so I can see what's in there. Okay. And I can make some comments about that. Okay. As I'm going through, this is essentially what I'm doing. I'm building up a story of what it is that I've done. I'm keeping an automatic record of the operations that I performed within SeqMonk and building up a document which I can then refer back to. When I've got far enough through that I think I want to stop working, I can save this. So if I just say save, it will save under the same name as my project. The Vistories save under a different file than the project, so there is not a direct link between the project and the Vistory, so you can even have a Vistory that steps over several projects, if that makes sense. I will save this one. And then the other thing that I can do with the Vistory is when I've got to the end of this, if I want to now produce this in a form when I can send it to somebody else to show what I've done, is I can save the Vistory to an HTML file. So if I do that, it will export into a single HTML file with all of the information embedded, and then we'll open up in a web browser. And if I just bring that across, you'll see what this looks like. So here I have the same Vistory in its web form. We can see all the sections and the subsections down here, and we can click on these to move to the appropriate place. All of the graphics that were inserted are there, and we can see those. All of the events that were generated have been inserted into here as well. And if we were to make sort of tables or other comments, each of those will be present as well. So hopefully you can find a use for this as a recording method to say what you've done and to keep a complete record of the technical aspects as well as the commentary around your analyses.